I think, however, it is true that in the history of this country there have been a number of unorthodox religions that have engaged in rather bizarre and in some cases high-pressure techniques. The Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, are very vigorous proselytizers, and in some instances,
except they tell people who they are.
Well, not always, not always. And but I don't think it helps your cause. And I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't think it helps your cause to claim that this is an entirely new phenomenon and it's new to the 20th century and never existed before, because the religions have always tried in very powerful ways to win people's affection.
But the field of psychology has not been as evolved as it is today, and religions are going into.
It's not a new phenomenon. There've always been these groups around. It's new in the sense of their immense sophistication, their immense wealth, and their immense power, some groups, and I don't like to look into people's motives and hearts. I believe the evil purposes to which it's being put. Let's put it that way.
Line 1, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good show, Ms. Freeman. There's a number of organizations around that don't necessarily call themselves religions, but are pretty strong and powerful organizations. I'd like Ms. Rudin and Mr. Hassan's comment on an organization known as EST, led by Werner Erhard out of San Francisco. Some of the procedures and methodology used in the EST training have been likened by some to excessively strong behavior modification or brainwashing techniques. And if this is not a cult, according to Mr. Hassan's definition, when does an organization that doesn't overtly break the law go too far? Thank you.
Mr. Hassan?
Well, for me, I don't think of EST in the same breath as I think of Scientology, Moon, The Way, Krishna, Divine Light Mission, etc. Although I really have very strong problems with EST. I've talked with numerous people who have gone through the EST training. I think there are many problems, psychological manipulations and techniques, high-pressure type things. I think that there are indeed, is not an organization that I think is good, and in fact it's something that I'm very interested in researching. For me, there's a continuum between benign to very destructive, and we're talking about groups that are over in this area, not at the ultimate absolute, which is hypothetical anyway. For me, a destructive cult combines a number of things, including a leader who sets himself up to be God-like, who has the truth, the only connection with God, the only understanding of the nature of the universe, and has control over a totalist ideology, one that supersedes even individuals' conscience, individuals' value system.
Are you talking about the infallibility of the Pope now? Is that what you're talking about?
I am describing, for me, if I can continue, what a destructive cult is versus a cult group or a sect or a religious organization. Now, we're talking, for me, about a number of different variables. One is the leadership, one is the ideology, and in terms of its openness. Are there different levels of doctrine depending on who you are or how long you've been in the group, or is it overt and stated, and can you read it objectively in a text or not? Destructive cults do not want you to read a book. They want you to come to have an experience. They don't want you to know what's happening ahead of time.
I'd like to comment on Mr. Rita's question, if I could, the listener. I have heard very, very many things about groups such as EST, and there are many of these human potential movements, which lead us to believe that they are very cult-like. There really are not, in many ways, distinctions in the way that they use power over people.
Line 5, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Address my question to the person from the ACLU.
Yes?
Well, I'd like to know, it seems to me the most important issue is individual freedom, and I'd like to know when he thinks that the individual freedom of a cult member should be abridged, at what point that is, and when this person should be allowed to continue his activities, however strange they may seem to other members of society.
Well, you pose a very difficult question. In many ways, it's the $64,000 question. We have to remember that we live in a society where people are allowed to make bad decisions. They are allowed to do things that other people might think are not in their best interests. We do not live in a Big Brother society, at least not yet. We don't live in a society where people are forced to believe something or not believe something else. The presumption is always in favor of the individual if we're talking about an adult who presumably has free will.
Excuse me, we have to take this last time out. We'll be back right after these words. Stay with us. Welcome back. I want to thank my guests from left to right. I'm going to start first with Stephen Hassan. He is a former member of the Unification Church and a cult exit counselor. Next to Mr. Hassan is Thomas B. Stoddard, Legislative Director of the New York Civil Liberties Union. And next to Mr. Stoddard, Richard Lewis, member of the Unification Church and editor of the Unification News. And last but certainly not least, Ms. Marcia Rudin, who is a cult expert. Thank you all so much for being with us. And if you could quickly, what you said to me during the commercial message, there are two questions
here. One is whether particular religions happen to be good things or bad things for individuals. The other one is when can the government step in? They're two very different questions. There may be some problems with particular religions. They may be undesirable, but maybe we can deal with them in a non-coercive, non-governmental context.
All right. Thank all of you for being with me this evening. And thanks to you for being with us as well. We'll see you on the next program. Good night.